Hello and welcome to a 1v1 game between Vortix and coRe. Spawning into the northern side of the map on Cliffside, we have Vortix playing as the AoEs in blue, and to the south, it is the one and only coRe with the Holy Roman Empire in orange. So, bit of an old versus new matchup over here. Of course, HRE, an OG civilization as compared to the AoEs here. Now, one thing that's very intriguing with Cliffside as a map is that the two players spawn very close to each other, or at least much closer than where they would spawn on maps like, let's say, Dry Arabia. So one of the things to look out for is that early aggression is something that can work a lot better, simply because the distance to cover between the two players' bases is substantially smaller. Right off the get-go, we're going to have berries taken by Vortix, no surprise on that side. He has a gold spawning on the front, and the backup gold mine is kind of exposed to the north as well. But his wood line is fairly safe, so that's definitely on a more appealing side of things. Compared that to coRe's base, he has a lovely location for an Aachen Chapel, something that could cover the food, the stone, the gold, and the wood as well. Can't really cover the berries, but that's not really terrible for him. It's gonna be interesting to see whether he actually leverages that for a 2TC build. Now, speaking of the matchup over here specifically in terms of this civilization combination, this is a tricky one for the HRE. The HRE get their true power spike in mid-late Castle Age and beyond, but that's exactly where the AoEs are also getting theirs, so it's not like you have any window where you have any kind of advantage over the opposing civilization. And generally speaking, the build-up, especially when you use the Trade Wing, for the Abbasids, or the AoEs I should say, is something that can give you a lot more momentum than what early Castle Age can give to HRE. So I think this is a little alarming here for coRe, this civilization matchup is. Especially when you factor in that normally the HRE want to secure the relics, and that's difficult to do when you're facing the AoEs, who can just grab dervishes and yoink most of them. Having said all of this, this actually could lead to coRe using a Burgrave Palace, because I feel like the issue that you're having here is that if you go for Regnitz Cathedral, you might miss out on most of the relics. Now normally, when you only have villagers working as your eco, so you don't have any fishing whatsoever, sustaining production on a Burgrave Palace is difficult. But that's not that significant on this map, because the distance between the two players is smaller, so it takes less time for the men-at-arms to arrive to the enemy base, so you don't need that many men-at-arms to work out. On Dry Arabia, the problem that you have is that you might have 6 men-at-arms on the field, but only 2 of them have reached the enemy base. Here, that's not that significant. If you make 4 men-at-arms, all of them can be at the enemy base very quickly. So that could be an avenue for coRe to take. But for that, he needs to get to Castle Age first, and of course Vortix is going to try to slow that down by going for the reinforcement option over here. He's going to get a Desert Raider, which is immensely valuable against the HRE, who usually don't have that much of an early defense here in Feudal. In fact, so much so that coRe is going to play a defensive tower on his gold, knowing that Vortix is going to hit this gold mine with that Desert Raider. coRe moving on to stone here. It's only 3 villagers though, and there is no mining camp, so this is only going to be an arrow slit emplacement out here. Something that will be scouted by Vortix. Now the key piece of information here is that there is no mining camp. That should tell Vortix that coRe isn't going to play 2TCs. If there was a mining camp, he probably would think that his opponent is going to play multiple town centers. But with only 3 villagers on the stone and no mining camp, it's clear that it is only for arrow slits on this defensive tower. Desert Raider out there for Vortix. He's right now in a melee mode, but I expect him to switch to the bow and try to harass these gold miners. Now, this unit, when you use the bow, has 4.5 tiles of range, so it shouldn't be able to hit these gold miners from any angle. This tower probably would have been better over here, by the way. Would have actually covered more area from which the Desert Raider can shoot. But this tower should also be fine, just repelling this aggression. So coRe, he's going to play straight fast castle here. Has a lot of sheep to work with, so he doesn't need to worry about food right now. And of course, having such a condensed base and having all resources in the aura of the Alchemist Chapel is something that's also very valuable for him. It's going to expedite his castle age. Now, Vortix is going to do something clever here, and I love this. I kind of touched on the fact that you can play Burgrave here and play aggressive because of the small distance between the two players. But if you wall up, you actually buy yourself a lot of time here with the IO bits. And just looking at the resources, Vortix himself wants to go to Castle Age here. Resources being piled up here for both sides. No surprise on that side. Second prelate is already on the way here for coRe. Now this is something that you sometimes see from the HRE. Not all the time, because you do have to sacrifice a villager for this. But oftentimes you will see the HRE player queue up another prelate. So you start off with 2 in Castle Age, and you can start grabbing those relics. This is a big misstep here by Vortix. Losing one Desert Trader over here to the Town Center Fire. He tried hunting down this one scout, but wasn't able to. He does have a second one, and he's going to try to use that to intercept these prelates, but it would have been so much better if he had 2 of those on the field. Castle Age is on the way as well for Vortix here. He's going up with advancement, so he's actually going to have a competitive timing compared to his opponent. And you have multiple stables coming in already, so he's going to have some cavalry out there to limit the movement of the prelates. And this is the alarming thing right now for the HRE. You do have these prelates out here, but you simply cannot leave your base because you don't have anything that can escort them. And even if you make some horsemen, it's not going to work against the Desert Traders when they are in melee mode. If you make some spearmen, they're just going to pick off the spearmen with the bow. So Desert Traders are actually extremely good when it comes to containing this early game expansion, because it's not like the enemy has any kind of early game units that can competitively fight against these. Of course, off the back of sheer numbers, you can win against them, but right now, in this early state of the game, HRE just doesn't have a lot of units. So in this scenario, this is actually a position where the Desert Traders are very valuable in these engagements where you only have a handful of units. Camel Lancers will be the unit of choice here for Vortix. Something that's going to work extremely well as well. Vololo being attempted here just to push away this one unit, but won't convert. And now Desert Trader should be able to pick off the Monk here. Side note, the melee attack of the Desert Trader is 13 base damage as compared to the bow. So it's better for Vortix to use the melee mode against the Prelate compared to the bow. Vortix does have some walls in the middle as well. Spearman will be mixed in here. Looks like this one Prelate was able to sneak out, so at the end of the day, coRe secures at least one relic for himself. He's going heavy on the Spearman, but he only has 1 barracks, and you see he's kind of bottlenecked on production. Has 4, 5 in queue now. Does have a Knight out as well, and he can use the Prelates to heal them, but he might end up losing his scout here if he's not cautious. He's still trying to bring in this relic, sacrificing the Prelate. Not going to get the relic just for a time being. In the meantime, there's a Mosque as well, and there is the Dervish coming in from Vortix. This relic should definitely be his. Probably this one as well. But coRe, he's got a second one coming in already, and this is the third one. Where did coRe yoink that relic from, I'm wondering? I actually can't see the orange dot on the map. He dropped it somewhere. Okay, there it is. So 2 of these relics are right here, something that coRe could expand towards if he has a couple more spearmen. If you're Vortix, you're actually sending your first Dervish here to try and take this relic before coRe can do that. Spearman now moving up, a little engagement here. You see, Desert Traders with the bow mode, they do get a decent amount of damage output against Spearman. And coRe right now confined in his own base over here. Yoinks the relic might actually try Vololo to push back these melee units. He actually took away the relic just from in front of that Dervish. But Vortix will be able to take it once the Prelate goes down. And coRe is just back to the drawing board at this point. He's got no army essentially, aside from 2 spearmen and 1 knight, and he's going to miss out on this relic, and possibly even this one. Dare I say these 2 as well. These are actually the easier ones for Vortix to grab. So we could easily look at a game where Vortix does have 4 out of 5 relics. On top of that, coRe does have a very limited amount of food available under the town center, so he's gonna have to expand towards the berries. Not something that you're happy about, just in general, working with the berries is definitely subpar compared to the hunt. Second relic from coRe's side also taken away by Vortix. So now, really, for coRe, his only hope is being able to take this relic, but even that seems quite unlikely, I would say. Camel Lancers are increasing in number as well, so this army is getting very scary here for coRe. He is mixing in some crossbows, though. And when you combine crossbows with spears, that's actually a pretty good composition against what Vortix has on the field. Both sides still on just 1 TC, no surprise on that side. Vortix himself is playing pretty aggressive, and now he's mixing archers. Now this is a problem for coRe. The combination of spearmen and crossbows will work very well against Camel Lancers and even Desert Raiders, but it's going to be awful against mass archers, and that's something that coRe is going to struggle against very badly here, I feel. coRe has to make a farm transition as well, which obviously slows down his military expansion too. And he's just now catching up on some of the eco upgrades, especially Wheelbarrow. He does have decent eco upgrades elsewhere. Does have fertilization, double broadaxe as well. Even the mining upgrade, but Wheelbarrow lacking. Forestry is something he's also picking up right now. Might actually get raided over here. Nice little flank by Vortix. Quick reaction by coRe. Saw these troops approaching with the tower. Does have some spears to hold this back, but here come the archers. coRe now sees that he's facing archers as well. Something that doesn't have anything to deal with. Bit of a Vololo here, saving the villagers from the night charge. Nice little move by Vortix. Means that he is not going to lose more than 1 villager. He actually lost 1 somewhere around here. Nice little move from coRe, sending 2 knights around to raid. At the same time, Vortix is indeed going to be up to 4 relics. Definitely good against the HRE, and this is why I felt like coRe probably could have justified a Burgrave Palace a lot more. I'm not saying that the Burgrave Palace is great in this specific matchup. I think it's more about the fact that the Ragnitz Cathedral has such a limited use if you cannot get relics. And in this matchup, it's extremely difficult for the HRE player to grab any of the relics. coRe, very slow build-up here. He's actually thinking about Imperial here, I feel. He wants to go into Imperial, because that way he could build an eco advantage with the Pass of Schwabia. And also, once he gets to Imperial, he has cannon emplacements on the towers, makes it a lot easier to hold off such an assault. At least that's what I'm thinking based on the resources he's piling up. He's got no units in queue, he's grabbing a lot of eco upgrades. He's actually taking this Sacred Site. I actually wonder if this is a diversion only. It could be. Obviously, it's going to give him a lot of gold if he holds onto the Sacred Site, but I feel like this could be a bit of a diversion. Kind of just telling his opponent, hey, I'm taking the Sacred Site, come here, clean me up. And this kind of ensures that he can safely go up into Imperial, because the enemy army is going to be in this area. Let's see if this bit of a diversion works. There's a ram here. Now, coRe actually sees this whole army here. He wants to go into Imperial very soon. Battering ram is spotted as well, but the ram is actually heading towards the production buildings. This is also the only tower that the relic has inside. This is the only relic that coRe has. Villagers being pulled here, and looks like Vortix did not take the bait. Pass of Schwabia will be on the way. Oh boy, that's a terrible spot to place it at. Has to cancel it upon this army arriving, and now things are just falling apart here for coRe. Has to replace it all the way down to the berries. Emergency repairs now coming in. I think Vortix has spotted the landmark though, and this is the big thing, he's looking for it. If this landmark wasn't placed here, he might not have guessed that this is actually being built. But just seeing the ruins of this cancelled landmark, he now knows that his opponent is aging up and he's looking for the landmark. Oh, he's so close. He actually spots the landmark. Might be a little too late to the party. Way too many villagers building this. A couple of villagers will fall, though. coRe is going to get the landmark going. Actually loses 2 villagers, make it 3. Make it 4, actually. A lot of villas falling over here. coRe has lost 13 villagers in this game already. But I guess the concern for him right now is that as much as he's up to Imperial, he's just not going to survive. He's got nowhere to go, and Vortix will just finish him off. Tough matchup here for the HRE, and really, I don't really have a good idea on what coRe could have done very differently. I feel like this is just all around a tough matchup for him, but I feel like the Ragnis Cathedral just does not work if you're playing this fast castle race with the AoE. One thing that could have been interesting is an early villager from coRe, maybe even Dark Age, to get some of these choke points walled, make it a little bit more difficult for Vortix to approach him. But in general, the issue that the HRE face over here is that you don't really have a good answer in Feudal Age to that Desert Raider. And because of that, you have to forfeit all map control. And without map control, you don't have a lot of relics. You can't even wall yourself nicely. And you're just confined into your base throughout the entire game. That's something that coRe struggled with very badly in here. Tough to say, maybe a 2TC build could have been interesting, but I feel like Burgrave Palace, Men-at-Arms all-in might have been the most reasonable thing to do. Even then it's difficult, but I feel like that might have been a little bit more legitimate for coRe. Anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed this game. If you did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Those metrics help me greatly. Hopefully, we'll see each other again in the next video as well. Take care. See you next time.